Namaste. In verse 5 of chapter 3, I've said this before many times, no one can remain actionless or even a moment. All are compelled by nature, whether willingly or unwillingly, to be active, driven by the gunas, or the three qualities of nature. The person who restrains his organs of action, but in whose mind rotate the thoughts of sense objects, is rightly regarded as a hypocrite and is self-deluded. Now remember, however, and I have talked about this before, that it is not hypocrisy to affirm something if you are trying to achieve it. It's hypocrisy if you show this to other people and pretend to be like this. But if you are trying, you have to understand that there will be obstacles and your mind will rebel fiercely against everything you try. And you must understand that these obstacles are overcome partly by constantly affirming, this is not I. I am a child of God. I am a perfect being. This is not hypocrisy if you live this way as an affirmation. But Krishna is saying different. He who says, in whose minds rotate the thoughts, if he deliberately rotates those thoughts of sense pleasures, then he is rightly regarded as a hypocrite. If you pretend something you're not, that's not affirmation even, that's hypocrisy. And so Krishna says, that man, however, succeeds supremely, O Arjuna, who disciplines his senses by an effort of mind, who remains inwardly non-attached, and who engages his organs of activity in God, reminding activities. We have to make a great effort to calm the mind. It takes a lot of willpower because the tendencies, the samskaras are all working against you. You've been active and restless all this time. So always try to restrain your mind. When it breaks loose from meditation, bring it back. When it goes off thinking, I'd like to go to this party, I'd like to go to this dance, I'd like to go to this place, this restaurant, I'd like to go to these people and hobnob with them and so on. Bring the mind back. By steadfast repetition of a right action, you will finally reach the point where you are able to calm your mind, not let that action disturb you, but it takes repeated effort. And the path to God is not easy. Perform those actions which your duty dictates, for action is better than inaction. Without action, indeed, even the act of maintaining life in the body would not be possible. Now, what is your right duty? That duty will depend not on what your caste is, what your family is, what your boss tells you to do. That duty depends upon your inner things that you have to overcome in yourself in order to become aware of your identity with God. In other words, in my case, as an example, my problem in past lives was doubt. So it's very important for me, not only I have found the answer to doubt is in love, and by love I have overcome doubt, but it's also important for me to do those actions which will help me to overcome that karma, to overcome those samskaras. And this means by teaching people truth, by helping people to understand who they really are and that God is real for them and the only reality they are seeking. And by giving them faith in spiritual practices and so on, I'm helping myself. I'm doing it for you, but I'm also doing it for myself. And in these ways, I can gradually come out. That is your duty. But another person's duty would not be that. And so my guru, being an enlightened master, told me to teach. But an interesting thing was his most advanced disciples, who could have taught much better than I, who knew much more spiritually than I, he didn't give them that job. I remember he put me in charge of the magazine of his organization. And for some time I wrote articles for it and so on. But I thought, well, if he wants all hands on deck to do this, obviously the best people to do it will be those disciples who are most able to do it well. And yet when I wrote to them and asked them to write articles and so on, they didn't even answer me. And I was thinking, aren't they disciples? Don't they want to do the Guru's will? And I had much confusion and perplexity on that point. But the fact is they didn't need that anymore. I know that Yogananda wanted to spread his teachings. Obviously, that was his mission. But his most advanced disciple, Rajarshi, he had a meditation group in Kansas City where he lived. Master told him to stop it. He didn't want him to get involved in that kind of thing anymore. He was past that. So your duty is your particular duty, not the duty of every man. There are, of course, duties that everybody has to fulfill. We have to think of God, we have to be kind to each other, we can't be brutal and so on. But the specific work that you do, that depends on you, and it will be different for you from what it will be for other people. So this duty you must take in terms of what your own karmic obstacles are. And if it's, for example, an indifference to God, chant a lot, do lots of chanting to develop this desire, this longing for God. I used to chant for hours on end. I loved to chant, Emon din ki hobe matara, jobe tara 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 bole, donoyone be porbe dhara. Just will that day come to me, Mother, when singing your name, my eyes will flow with tears of devotion, and then the lotus of my heart will open, and I will understand who I am. And it goes on to say that thousands of Vedas, Shotta, Shotta, Shotta Vedare Amar Nirakara, that thousands of Vedas tell us that Tara, or my Divine Mother, has no form. And this thing I would sing hour after hour, and it was so wonderful to sing to God in that way. So chanting is a very important thing to overcome dryness, to overcome indifference or whatever. And I've written many songs that I think will help people also in that way, do help people. And I have found that those who sing those songs become firmly placed on the spiritual path. And so, actions performed for selfish gain are karmically binding. Therefore, O son of Kunti, that is to say, of dispassion, perform your duty without attachment in a spirit of religious self-offering. Do it as an offering of yourself. You must always give. The way out of delusion is giving. The way out of pride is to give to other people. The way out of every delusion is the more you can give of yourself to others, the more you can give of yourself to God. You'll find that this is the way. People get very nervous about lecturing in public. With God's grace, I've never been nervous, for two reasons. One, I've told you, is that if I'm a fool, I just figure, what does it matter if people know it? And so I don't worry about it. But the other thing is that I concentrate more on what I'm giving than what I'm receiving. I don't worry what people think about me, but I have something to give, and I know it's worthwhile. And in that action of giving, I get rid of that attachment of the ego to fear of how people respond and so on. The more you learn to give of yourself in your life, to give to people instead of taking from them, the lower you can learn when you make money. The way to overcome attachment to money is to give what you have, not to take more. The way to overcome sexual desire is to think in terms of giving love, not of receiving it. The way to overcome pride is to give honor to other people instead of wanting it for yourself. The way to overcome the attachment to power is to give power to other people and honor them. And when anybody insults you even, thank him. And when somebody tries to express control over you and so on, just don't mind. I remember this dream I had. I believe I have mentioned it on this program before. But years ago I dreamed that I was very loyal to a friend who finally betrayed me and took advantage of me. And as I was ready to die in that dream, I thought of this friend and I realized that if I didn't forgive him now, then I would go through many incarnations. I would have to be mean to him. He would have to be mean to me. I just thought, why waste all that time? I forgive him now. And I woke up with this great feeling of freedom. So when you give forgiveness, if other people hurt you, give them forgiveness. The more you give of yourself, the more you expand yourself. And so your ego doesn't get killed. It becomes infinite. You begin to feel yourself in other people. You begin to feel that their suffering is your suffering, and their joys is your joy. And the more you do this, the more you find that you don't have an ego. It's just God living through you. So this is what Krishna is telling. Prajapati, God in the aspect of creator, brought mankind into manifestation, and in so doing gave man the potential for self-offering into a higher than human awareness through yajna. And so yajna, or for the fire sacrifice, all of this is symbolic. You have to offer into the fire. This is a good practice at night. Offer into that fire that you create in your mind all the delusions, all the attachments, all the misunderstandings, all the hurt feelings. Just offer it all. The more you offer yourself, the more you'll find that you are a part of him. And this is what Krishna is telling us, that we have to offer our self-offering into the higher human awareness, higher than human awareness, through yajna. Along with his gift, he enjoined mankind, whatever you desire, seek it by offering energy back to the source of all energy. Let this sacrifice, this yajna, be your milk cow of fulfillment. So when you have a desire for, again, the normal desire, money, offer that desire to the infinite. And how do you offer it to the infinite? By trying to help other people. As the more you help them, the more you use your money for the upliftment of others, the more free you become in yourself. The way out of every delusion is to give of yourself into that fire, into that yajna, that havan kund that will free you for the infinite. Prajapati continued, with this offering, commune with the devas, the shining angels, that they may commune also with you. Though through such mutual communion, you will arrive at the highest good. And so, when you offer of yourself to him, then you get rid of this ego and you find yourself in tune and communing with these higher beings. There are many higher beings in this universe and not in this world. My Guru said that the veil between the astral world and the physical world is a distinct vibration of space. And beyond that space, you find yourself in another world. And there are many, many people there. The astral world, my Guru said, is like a great balloon. And this little physical universe, which to us is by no means little. He says it's just like a basket appended under that balloon. But the more you think of the devatas and the more you try to offer yourself to them, the more they will be able to help you. And so it is, don't look for their help, but give that back to God. The more you, in other words, you feel blessed by the gods, and they certainly will help you and they will get you all the things you want in this world if you ask in the right way. But give even that to God. Always try to go back to the source of whatever quality or state of consciousness you're trying to develop. Give it back to God. Give it repeatedly. And you'll find yourself gradually tracing yourself back to your source as the ego. And as you give that ego to God, then alone can you attain freedom. And so he says, by communion with the devas, you will receive from them the earthly fulfillments you desire. But he who enjoys the gifts of the gods without returning due offering of energy to them is verily a thief. Spiritually minded people, offering up the food they eat to its source in divine energy, the devas, incur no sin. So if you eat but feel that you're eating with God, or eating through you, and you give that food to Him and feel that He is enjoying. He is the fire ceremony, He is the fire, He is the benefiter of the fire, He is everything. And so if you can do that, then you don't achieve, you're not guilty of sin because there's no ego there. Creatures require nourishment from food. Food must be nourished by rain. Rain is sustained in turn by fire, heat from the sun, which causes bodies of water to evaporate. And heat is produced by the vibrations of Om. Know this divine vibratory activity to have been produced by Brahma, the cosmic creative force. Yajna, or sacrificial self-offering, brings the great cycle of cosmic manifestation back at last to itself. You know, there are three aspects of Om. We think of the Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, and people think of these as separate deities. They are not. We have to understand that they are the different vibrations of Om. And I've often thought of it this way, you know, why do we chant Om? Om, Om, Om. Really speaking, you should sing the first one loudly. The first chanting of Om stands for Brahma. Brahma is not a separate deity. It is that aspect of Om which brings everything into manifestation. And so when you chant Om, you do it loudly. When you do it more softly, then that becomes Vishnu, keeping things going. And then when you finally dissolve everything into the infinite, then that is the Shiva aspect. Well, I've run out of time, but I'll continue this thought because it's a very interesting one in my next talk. Joy to you.